All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. I have an amazing guest. This is Connor Clancey. Thank you for coming on to the podcast. How's everything going?
Of course, thanks for having me. Much
Yeah.
appreciated. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm finally glad we connected. We actually have a mutual friend that kind of connected us that I used to work with at the hospital, and she told me about you, and I was like, okay, I got to check him out. And then like after that, we've always been contacting via DM or writing comments in each other's posts, and just never had the chance to talk talk face to face. But I'm really glad we're doing that right now.
Yeah, man, me too. It seems like the Type 1 world is actually pretty connected, which is cool, especially people Type 1 and fitness, strength conditioning, that type of stuff. It's a pretty small population, so it's kind of cool to connect and have those relationships with people.
Yeah, awesome. So when did you get diagnosed, and like how long ago was that?
I was diagnosed in September of 2004, so right at the beginning of 7th grade. So like a month into middle school, so that was awesome. Actually, my neighbors, the people sharing our backyard wall with, had 2 kids. One was my age, one my little brother's age, both Type 1s, which is kind of weird. And so my mom and their mom are pretty good friends, and I was peeing a lot, drinking a bunch of water, and it only went for a couple weeks, and my mom took me in, and later on she'd said, yeah, Charlie and Carly's mom had told me about the symptoms, and you started drinking so much water and peeing and stuff, and I was like, oh, I know what this is. So kind of relatively early, when I went in, my blood sugar was like 400, which isn't good, but not crazy like some of the diagnosis stories you hear. So the transition was actually not that hard, I suppose, being young, because I had no decisions for myself. I wasn't grocery shopping. I wasn't making choices on what to eat. So my parents were like, all right, well, here's what you eat now. You don't eat pasta because it's harder on you and us, and you eat a lot of meat and vegetables. So it was kind of nice. It was easy to build habits that early because you have no choice.
Yeah, exactly. And it was
good. It was not, the transition, besides the whole like being a kid and being embarrassed unnecessarily thing, the transition wasn't that crazy. It was just like, well, I guess I gotta do these shots now.
Yeah.
I gotta do this stuff now.
And how did you handle the shots at like in 7th grade and stuff? Did it bother you at all, or?
I'm not too bad. I wasn't afraid of needles or anything. I was more embarrassed. Like I didn't want to be sitting like in the cafeteria and like launching out a syringe and doing it. So that was a little bit weird. And doing it in public was kind of funky and uncomfortable. But in and of itself, it wasn't too bad. I'm not, like I said, not afraid of shots or anything. And my friends were always like wanting to watch and like, oh, look at it, and look at, let me see. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But it was not that bad. Looking back now with all the technology that is available and the stuff that I learn now, it would have been even easier then with that stuff. But it actually was not too bad.
Yeah. So I actually, my wife always likes even my kids, they like watching me like inject insulin all the time. They're like, can I see? And then like when I stick the needle in, they're like, ooh, I don't know, I can't look at it anymore. But
I know. Well, that's funny because a lot of people will say, man, I don't know what I would do if I was in your situation. I don't like needles. And it's like, hey, if you were in this situation, you'd be fine with it because otherwise you would die. So I think you'd be fine.
Yeah. Well, I read in the article, I forget from who, but there was a diabetic who was afraid of needles and she wouldn't take her insulin, and she pretty much died in a DKA coma because she wouldn't take her insulin because she was afraid of shots, which is I think is insane.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, and so
that's awful, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I mean, you want to live, and I mean, you're gonna have to suffer. Like, just deal with it. Just try to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's a little prick, and then just go for it.
Yeah, so. I know, and it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, you might not like needles, but when it's a balance, oh, I don't like needles, and like, oh, I'm gonna be dead. I don't know. It seems like it'd be kind of the thing, and I'm sure there are some people who are like, you know what, I don't like needles, but I also like living, so. And then they probably get over it pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I guess I was not being afraid of needles. You don't seem like you're probably afraid of needles either.
No, well, I mean, I got diagnosed at 34, like a month before my 35th birthday. So it's it was a huge change for me, like, you know, going into the earlier stages of life. So
Yep.
compared to being a kid, I can't imagine like being a kid, especially with you know, being like 2 years old and all of a sudden getting diagnosed
Oh,
or
yeah.
like anything like that. So it's insane. So, but
Oh yeah.
did
I
you?
know. The kids who get diagnosed as babies, where the baby's got diabetes, but it's the parents who are the ones treating it, not the kid yet.
Yeah.
That would be wild. Injecting your kids and pricking your baby's finger and stuff. That would be.
Yeah.
That'd be way harder. I would much rather have to do it for myself than have to do it for like a baby. That'd be.
Yeah, I always worried about my kids getting it, but they have an early test now where you could do a blood test and then send it off, and they can tell you if they have the genes or whatever for that to get diabetes. So I think later, since I got it later on in life, there's they're less susceptible to getting diabetes. So
Yeah.
which is which I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple little things, and the percentage chances of having a type 1 diabetic child with like one type 1 diabetic parent, both type 1 diabetic parents, and even like the highest percent chance is like 4% if they're both like early diagnosed type 1. So it's very small, which is cool.
Yeah.
Just cool. But I guess, if you're type 1 and you have a kid who's type 1, I guess that kid has a pretty good role model, and I guess if of anybody, you're kind of the best suited to help out with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So obviously you definitely played sports when you were in like middle school and stuff like that. So how did your parents and coaches handle your diabetes throughout playing sports through all the way to college?
I was actually pretty lucky. I don't remember having any coaches who weren't understanding. I think a lot of them were pretty understanding because they might not have completely understood. So they didn't want to overstep into territory that they didn't really know. But as far as with like me and my parents playing, I never had like a crazy low. I remember for one hockey game, my blood sugar was like 29. I hadn't really felt it much because I adrenaline, whatever. But I always did until high school have one of my parents at least at every game or practice and holding Gatorade. And if I was low, I can still remember like at hockey practice, like skating around, looking at my dad and doing the signal, and he'd come down and give me a Gatorade. So that was a big, thing. And there was always Gatorades on the bench. And that's one thing I remember every coach I ever had, hockey and baseball, like, hey, the Gatorades are Clancy's medicine. That's not for you guys to drink. Think of that as Advil or ibuprofen. That's medicine for him. Don't touch it. So that was cool. So Gatorade's been kind of even still now, if I'm low, it's Gatorade. So that's kind of the biggest memory I have of like youth sports as far as diabetes goes. Always having Gatorade, like one of my parents having extra Gatorade. And my coaches, I don't remember a time when any of them weren't understanding. There were a couple times that I'm kind of like I don't try to pride myself on it, but sometimes I'm kind of like a hard ass, like not make the best decision. There were some times when I was probably should have gone and like drank a Gatorade, but I didn't want to look like a wuss.
Yeah. And
I think in hindsight, my coaches probably would have said, dude, yeah, of course you have this autoimmune disorder. Go drink a Gatorade. We'd rather have you drink a Gatorade and sit out for a minute and a half than pass out and we need to bring an ambulance out here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was until high school, my parents were always there. Once I was in high school, I'd had it for long enough. And I actually had a high school baseball teammate who was also type 1, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, besides the Gatorades all the time, it actually, I guess, wasn't too hard. My control, I don't remember what my A1Cs were, but I'd be willing to bet any amount of money that they were not as good as they are now. So I probably could have done better in that regard, but in my memory, it was okay. I'd never had any emergencies, never had anything crazy. It was interesting. I remember one of my teammates not wanting to share a water bottle because he asked me to get diabetes. So I remember that was when I was like 11 or 12, like right when I was diagnosed. And it's funny because the kid is actually in his trauma surgery residency in San Diego right now. So he's like the smartest guy I ever played with.
Yeah.
I asked the dumbest question, and it was like, man, it if any of his patients ever knew, like, oh, he thought that like that type 1 diabetes was communicable, maybe I don't want him doing surgery.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, did you? I obviously played babes. You didn't play hockey in college. It was just baseball, correct?
No, just baseball.
Okay. So I know you went to University of Arizona for a little bit, then moved to like 2 other schools. So how was your when you're playing baseball with those schools? Like, how was that like interacting with your teammates or in your coaches and like the trainers? What was that like?
So in college, I guess in high school there was a little more of the athletic trainer aspect. In college, now it's like, all right, you've got not only your tutors, you've got your coaching staff, your tutors, your strength coaches, all that stuff, but now you've got this like badass athletic training staff. So once I got to college, it was a positive change, but we had this athletic training staff and like a specific assistant holding Gatorades, holding stuff for me, like reminding me to, hey, like, remember you're testing in between every inning, doing this, blah, 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 like helping me monitor, almost like it was almost honestly like having like almost like one of the PAs at like my endocrinologist sitting in the dugout all the time and at practice. So it was a really nice positive change because I didn't really have to think about it anymore. I mean, I still did and I should be having, but you got this athletic trainer at U of A, the assistant, and it's like I was like my mom was there, like always on me, which is good, always on me, always thinking about it, making sure my levels were good, making sure I had Gatorade, making sure this, blah, blah, blah. So it kind of took it out of my hands, which was nice. And teammates, at this point, it seems like a lot of guys have come in contact or had a buddy or a teammate or something at some point that had type 1, so it's not really weird for anybody anymore. I guess it's still kind of weird the first time someone sees you like inject yourself.
Yeah.
But I would say of anything, the biggest adjustment in college was figuring out how to drink with type 1. on field in the weight room stuff was pretty relatively easy. Coaching staff was cool with it. It was a difference leaving U of A and then transferring to junior college for that little in-between year before I went Division I again. That was interesting because I kind of got used to the like Pac-12 Division I treatment. Then I go to junior college, and junior college is like, there's no like, you can practice 8 hours a day, there's no requirements, you get run, you get yelled at, you get sworn at, you get blah, blah. And so I go back to junior college, and it's like, wait, I'm used to having so-and-so, the athletic trainer, like handling my stuff, carrying my stuff, packing my stuff for road trips, doing blah, blah, blah. And now I go to junior college, and it's like, oh yeah, I got to do it on my own now. I got to do it on my own again.
Yep. I played Division III lacrosse, basketball, and football. So, I played lacrosse like all 4 years because I started getting concussions, and it was just like bad news. So I just played lacrosse the whole time. But yeah, it was like pretty much fend for yourself, and like here, just grab all your stuff, and like you have to manage everything. And I can't imagine like being a D1 athlete, and it's like pretty much getting pampered all the time. So,
dude. It really is. And I was very excited to go back. Junior college was fun. It was fun. Go back to Division I. It was the same thing, even smaller school is, the same treatment. You got the athletic training staff, like always in your corner, helping out with everything, packing stuff, making sure you got everything straightened out. So it was very different. The Division I, junior college, high school, all different levels of attention. Probably not something good to get used to.
Yeah.
The Division I treatment, because you start like, well, I don't know, I'm not going to test, but so and so hasn't told me yet. I'm not going to worry about it yet. She's my doctor right now. So it was cool. It was a really easy transition to Division I because I stopped having to do stuff.
Yeah.
Which in hindsight, probably not the best had I just completely been like, all right, not my job anymore, your job. But it was cool. Yeah. It was nice.
So did you have like a CGM or anything like that, or a pump while you were in college at all? No,
man. I actually, the summer, I switched from just normal syringes and whatever to the like reloadable that like kids Novolog pump, the blue one with the swirly colors.
Mm-hmm.
In, I don't know, for my freshman year of high school. And I kept using just a normal, like, testing kit until I came home for summer. I didn't play summer ball the year after JUCO because I was going back on the recruiting stuff and visiting places. And I tried the Omnipod, and I loved it, but I was like, all right, I got to make sure and try to beat this thing up to see if it's going to stay on me. And I couldn't find a place, so I was going out and, like, taking ground balls and doing stuff and, like, trying to dive all the time and make sure, like, hey, I'm trying to peel this thing off. I want to test it to make sure it's going to stay on. And I haven't found out about Skin Tack yet, which I use now. Yeah. And so I'd had a couple that ripped off, like diving and sliding and stuff. I said, you know what, I'm going to stay with the pen just because I don't want anything stuck on me and I don't have to worry about it falling off or anything. Yeah. So until I was done with college, I had never worn a CGM. I tried the Omnipods for like 2 weeks or whatever. And I think that was a big difference when I finally was done playing baseball and I had kind of told myself, as soon as I'm done playing baseball, whenever that is, I want to get into this cool technology stuff. Mm-hmm. So within a year of finishing playing baseball, boom, switched over, got the Omnipod back, started with the Dexcom. And I was like, man, if I would have been wearing this in college, it would have been way easier, especially with the sharing capabilities of the Dexcom and stuff. It would have been really, really easy, but I would have ripped through all those prescriptions. Yeah, exactly. And stuff knocked off and ripped off and stuff. So I was Novolog pen and testing kit until almost 24.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm still on the pen right now. I haven't changed yet, so I've been doing it for 5 years. I'm like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And so I've tried the Libre, didn't like it, and it just So I'm just like sticking with this. My wife wants me to get on the insulin pump like real bad, but I'm like, I don't really need it right now. So especially
exactly. And the pump, the Omnipod, I really like the Omnipod. But before I knew about that, the idea of a tubed pump just super, super turned me off. Because, like, what do you do when you sleep? What do you do when you shower? And it disconnected all the time. And I obviously don't know a ton about the tubed ones because I've never worn one. But just the first thought of that was like, that sounds like a pain in the ass. I don't have that. I don't want that hanging off me all the time.
Yeah, and I always see people ripping it off too. So, and it's just like, I'm not going to waste money on, like, if I rip it off, I have to spend more money to just get more tubes. So,
well, I know. I know exactly. It gets stuck on a doorknob. It gets the guy I played with in high school wore one. He got it hanging up in his pocket. He was a pitcher, so he said it's a little bit easier. I'm not like sliding. I'm not diving. I'm not doing as much stuff. But if I was going around and having to slide into bases and stuff, I probably wouldn't be wearing it.
Yeah, exactly. So while you were in was it Wolford, right?
Yeah.
So what was like the training facilities like, and like what were your typical workouts when playing baseball like?
So at Wofford, U of A was great. Their strength staff is great. I actually think the head guy that was there when I was there is still the one that's there. At Wofford, when I came in, they just hired a new head S&C coach to oversee everything. He'd come from University of Memphis. His name was Josh Medler. Super badass, awesome dude. Love the guy. Actually, one of the reasons probably that I committed there out of junior college, because I visited, checked out the facilities. They were awesome. Especially, Wofford's a small school, like mid-major Division I in the SoCon. Small school. So I didn't really know what to expect because I've been at U of A and Pac-12 facilities, whatever. So I step onto this campus, gorgeous, awesome facilities. Meet this strength coach. He's new, awesome dude. And then I hadn't met the guy that was overseeing baseball until I actually got to campus for class. And he's another awesome dude. He is an elite FTS guy. So pretty tight with Dave Tate. That was kind of his forte. Played college football. So we trained like a football team. The only thing that was different was pitchers would clean pull and snatch pull without a catch, because he was like, you know, having pitchers having to externally rotate like that to catch a bar.
Yeah,
they probably could do it, but why, you know, the risk is close to outweighing the reward here. Why have them do it?
mm-hmm.
So the training there was kind of the reason that I got so into strength and conditioning, because I was old enough to start understanding the kind of the like modalities and the reasons, and okay, so now I'm understanding like why we're training in these like progressive overload waves and then taking a week off. Because the first time we had a deload, I remember me and one of my roommates, who was kind of another like down home Rocco, South Carolina, like meathead type of dude, we were like, what the hell is this? I don't want to come in for this. We're at 50% squatting to a box. Why the hell are we doing this? I don't want to be. This is a waste of my time. And so we go through in that first fall semester, everybody gets strong. The guys that were there the couple years before and had a different strength staff was like, man, the last couple of years we did like a bunch of speed agility stuff, and there was not a whole lot of carryover onto the field that we could see. And we get finished with that first fall, and these guys who'd been like, these seniors who'd been there were like, man, I've never felt as strong going into like a winter break as I am right now. He said, I've not been nearly as strong after this first semester with this new staff than I was the first 3 years I was here on campus. So that first fall at Wofford, as coach's name is Troy Thompson, awesome dude. He's the head guy at Pace now in New York. Awesome dude. So it was that first semester working with him and working with Medler, and I was like, man, this stuff is awesome. I love this. And you can actually start to see like, okay, you plug away at this type of stuff and you're going to see carryover. So it was nice to actually see like, hey, squatting to depth and working on a little bit of like explosive strength versus absolute strength actually has a carryover to the field.
Mm.
Whereas, you know, in high school, you're trying to see how much you and your buddies can bench, and you don't know if it's carrying over to the field or anything, and it's probably not. And it was nice to actually see like, wow, what we're doing in here helps out there.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, because usually in high school, everyone's skipping leg day, and they always want to work on chest buys and like shoulders and stuff like that, because they're always wearing jeans, and you're just like, you want to get the big biceps for the weekend. So
yeah, I know exactly. Well, and it's hard because I have a couple buddies who are like high school strength coaches, and it's like, yeah, no matter how good a coach you are, the hardest part is getting buy-in from high school kids who just want they want to look jacked.
Yeah, which
is okay. Mm-hmm. But a lot more goes into looking jacked. Like, looking jacked doesn't help you make the tackle. Like, it doesn't make you able to like get to the jump ball better than the guy across from you. Mm-hmm. Looking jacked is cool on Instagram, but to get a high schooler to buy into that, they're like, no, I don't care about that. I want big arms. Josh has a vein in his biceps. I want that. I don't care about. I don't want box squats. That's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I've when I was personal training at the gym in my area, all the kids were like, you know, I want to get jacked and like all that, because they see it. That's all they see is on Instagram, like you said. It's all these guys that are super ripped, and they just don't see, like, they look at the athletes and like, okay, they're athletes, you know. I mean, even Kevin Durant, I mean, he does personal training. He has like personal training, and his ability is like amazing, but he's like super scrawny. But they train him the right way to actually like be his absolute superstar.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh, I know, and it's tough with kids, and once you get a kid bought in, then it's easy. But the first step of getting guys, and I even think back to college, and I hate to stereotype, but like a lot of times pitchers aren't super in to the strength and conditioning stuff, which is understandable. It's like, hey, I got one job and I got to keep my arm healthy. So I'm a little bit overweight. If I got a gut, who cares?
Yeah.
If my squat sucks, who cares? If I'm throwing 95 and I'm getting guys out and my arm is healthy, I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. So that first semester there too, seeing some guys who were this kind of stereotypical pitcher type start to buy in, and like, yeah, man, I'm noticing like 50 pitches into a bullpen, I'm not nearly as gassed as I normally would be, and maybe doing all these like pulls from the floor and doing all these like, you know, doing clean pulls and jumping and doing some like actually like programmed running and speed stuff, and not just, okay, go run some pulls after your bullpen, is actually working. So seeing guys get bought in helped me buy in. And for kids, it's just hard because the only way to have any buy-in out of a kid is they actually see something work and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, wow, I'm throwing a little bit harder now. Maybe I should keep doing this.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. The initial, like, hey, I promise if you do this, and you stick with it for 6 or 12 months, you're gonna do better on the field. I guarantee you.
Yeah, and so it was the last year of your at Wofford. Was it when you got the All-American award?
Yeah, that was my senior year. That was cool. It was. Actually, I was thinking about that recently. I feel really bad for the kids whose seasons are cut short right now.
Yeah.
Because that last year is fun. It's your last. Sorry. Somebody.
It's okay.
Must have a delivery. Tika. Sorry. The last year of college, even if you're not planning on playing afterwards, is an awesome experience. It's the last time that you're like, hey, I'm like the top dog. I'm like the top of the totem pole. So I look back at that and it's like, man, that was an awesome way to finish college. And I think about some of these guys whose seasons got cut short, and now NCAA is juggling the ideas of letting them come back, but with or without financial aid, or leaving it up to schools, or expanding rosters, whatever. It makes me feel bad for some of those kids who last hurrah.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool. The All-American thing, I was actually not expecting. I was still on campus. We'd finished season, finished school, and I was starting to pack up to move back because I was moving back here, and like, hey, either way, I'm not going to stay here, so might as well go back to Arizona and either see what happens and sign a contract, draft, whatever. So I'm heading back, getting ready to pack. Got a call from the coach, and I was like, God, why is he still calling me? Am I in trouble about something?
Yeah.
Because we had our exit meetings, we had all the stuff already. I was like, oh no, what is this? Because he's not going to call you with good news. And he said, hey, I think you need to go and check your email right now, because I just got a call and they said that they've not had a response yet. And usually they get a response really quick, and I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I assumed it was a draft thing. And I went and looked, and it was like, wow, that's insane. I thought I was dreaming.
Very cool. Very cool. So,
Yes, cool.
So what was your degree in college? Was it like towards the sports and conditioning aspect?
No, man, my degree's in sociology.
Okay. So what made you transition from sociology to training?
In all honesty, the 2 years at Wofford and seeing the actual carryover from true strength and conditioning to performance on the field, and just in general health, performance in your everyday life. I'd never had any chronic joint pain or anything, but that continued, and it was like, man, I'm bigger, stronger, faster. I feel great. Seeing that carryover and the kind of the direct correlations between, hey, good coaching and good benefits and good and actual results kind of had me hooked. So I thought about after my junior year, you know what? I might finish this degree and go back and get another bachelor's degree in this at some point. But then I was like, I can kind of go the back way and work on it and kind of shadow in the weight room and do that stuff, and rather than go the academic route and then get experience, go the experience route and then kind of backdoor it and then go the academic route and kind of get the experience first and then get the letters next. And so I was kind of hooked before I even finished my degree, but I was like, man, I'm 80% done with this degree. If I start over right now, my parents would be pissed.
Yeah. No, I understand. And then, so once you got out of college, did you start like your personal training, like right after college, like getting a job, or how did that work getting in?
Yeah, man. So I decided, it was a kind of a hard decision. So I decided, I decided in my mind already. I had a bunch of buddies playing minor league, couple of Major League Baseball, and it was like, man, to each his own, but like that life sounds terrible. You're making nothing. You're living on a bus. And I sat down with my parents and was like, man, like I don't think I want to do the after college playing thing. And it would have been cool. And sometimes I think back like, hey, maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut and then seen what happened in the draft. But then I would have felt kind of weird if some organization had wasted the pick and it was like, well, I actually don't want to play, but wanted to see my name get called. And so I took a couple weeks off, got home, and I was like, I know what I want to do. I have a little bit of experience from working out, which isn't real experience. I have a little bit of experience shadowing in the weight room, which is experience, but nothing that's an actual qualification. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to work at like an LA Fitness or something, which is cool. Fine with me. I have nothing better to do. Like, I just finished college. It's a job, whatever. So I applied to all of these gyms locally in the Scottsdale area, and one responded and gave me a front desk job. So I was working front desk at a little private gym, like in kind of northish Scottsdale, so 5-8 miles away from where I'd grown up. It was awesome. Made a bunch of good relationships, learned actually, and I hate to trash on anybody, but that was a great experience for me because the gym was run interestingly. So I learned how to run a good training business by learning what not to do. Mm-hmm. And being at the front desk, it was nice getting to learn systems and stuff, and whether or not those systems were followed or working there, it was nice to get to learn systems. So worked at the front desk there, knew I wanted to get into training, so I'd sit at the front desk and it was like, all right, I'm studying out of this NASM book harder than I studied for anything in like a 400, 500 level college class, and boom, I'm going through it, and they told me, hey, as soon as you get that, you can start training here. So that was kind of push came to shove, and finished the NASM stuff. Started training there. Gym closed. I built up pretty good clientele at that place. That gym closed. Took my clientele to a gym that was like a 1.1 miles away. That place closed too, and I found the place that I'm at now that I rent from. And my clients were pumped. They were like, hey, that's great that you're not going to be an employee anymore. We like just directly paying you. Mm-hmm. So I actually have probably half of my clientele, maybe not quite, are clients I've trained since the first couple months I started training, actually.
Yeah, very cool.
Followed me from one gym to the second to the one now, and I've kind of been there along the way. So it's cool. It is for anybody who's wondering if they want to get into coaching, if there is one thing that tipped the scales for me now in retrospect, it's the relationships.
Yeah. I've had clients at the gym that I was working at. They've been clients with me for years and years, and they don't want to leave because they don't want to like have another trainer. And yeah. when I left the gym to work for another job, they asked me like what trainer would be a good fit for them, and I said I only really gave them one person because she was training underneath me. She knew what I like, taught them and trained them, and so she knew what to do. So I was like, this girl knows what she's doing. She's gonna smoke your ass, and she's a good fit. So
yeah.
And they're like, well, we trust your word. So like, pretty much all my clients went to her, and they've been happy ever since. So yeah, I think relationships are huge, and I still talk to my clients to this day. So, and they're awesome. So
I know I have clients who've moved away, who've gone to college, done whatever, and it is a great, awesome relationship. And once you build that trust up, it's second to none type of relationship. And you're right, it is hard when someone moves, or graduates and goes to college or gets done with college and leaves. It is an interesting. I'm always surprised, no matter how many times it happens, when people are like, "Hey, I'm thinking about not leaving because I don't want to have to restart this." And it's like, wow, it always surprises me again how highly they prioritize their training once they've found a fit that works for them.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah. And how do you communicate with your clients? Like, do you have like a special way of like for cues, or like the way you try to push them a little bit further?
I like to pride myself on being pretty like, I'd say I'm a pretty chill coach. I probably am even a little monotone sometimes, but I don't know if it's just the law of attraction or something, but I seem to attract people who don't try to take advantage of it. Like I've done it before. I would like to never have to do it, but I've gotten on people's asses before and had to like chew people out and have to come to Jesus talks and stuff. But I've been pretty lucky. Like I said, I don't know if it's just kind of attracting people that are like you or whatever, but for the most part, when I've asked people like, "Hey, do you ever get the feeling that I'm like too much of a hard ass or too easy or what?" Most people's answer is kind of uniform and like, "No, you're not a jerk," which I appreciate, because there are some trainers who are like cracking the whip all the time and like, I'm always on them. But you don't seem like someone who I would want to try to pull any shit with, which is good, because if they feel like that, then it makes my life easier because I don't have to be a jerk.
Now, have you like seen other trainers like talk to their clients and like you see them like on their phones or anything like that, and have you like talked to them and say like, "Hey, listen, like this is not a good idea"? Because like I've had many trainers that are like always on their phone, or talking to somebody else and not like focusing in on their client. And like I've had people come up to me and talk to me and try to have a conversation with me, and I'm like, "Can't right now, I'm with them, so I need to focus with them," or just like say, I'll see you a little bit later. So
yeah.
But have you ever talked to trainers about that? Or
yeah, man, you know what, I've probably had more, I wouldn't say arguments, I've probably had more conflicts talking to trainers about stuff like that than I've had with clients about their training. And I don't know if it's just a defense mechanism or if it's me having not approached it the right way, but I've had workers, and now it's nice because I rent from this place and the owner's an awesome dude, and he is the one that kind of is like, "Hey, it's not my business because you just rent from me, so you can run your business however you want. If you want to run it in the ground, go ahead. But maybe don't be on your phone, or maybe like look at your clients, or maybe don't cancel on them all the time." So it's kind of nice for that to be out of my hands now. When I was an employee and working with coworkers, there were times when it was like, "Hey, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you continuously see yourself losing clients and are wondering why you can't hold on to a client for longer than a couple months, and why am I not making the money I want to make?" And it's like, dude, you're on your phone all the time and you don't give a shit about your clients. I see what you do. You take your, a 60-year-old woman at 7 a.m. through the same lift that you took a male high school senior for at 8 a.m. It's like, how do you expect? And I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job, but if you're going to complain about the status of your financial status or your clientele, then I'll tell you why it's not what's happening. You just got to care. You got to care about people. And that's what bugs me. 90% of my clients have had a non-perfect experience with a coach before. Not the non-athlete clients. People who are just like, "Hey, I want a trainer, and I like having somebody who's programming for me. I don't want to, go to the gym and wonder what I do on my own." So the normal, like, kind of casual gym goers, or the competitive athlete clients, it seems like every one of them has had a negative relationship or some type of fallout with a trainer before. And it seems always to be something that would be remedied by just, wow, if the trainer or the coach would have just cared a little bit more, the whole thing would have been resolved. Yeah. It's not great. Mm-hmm. We joke about it all the time. I got a couple buddies that train at the same place as me, and we're pretty close to the owner, and we're always joking around like every day, like so-and-so with their client so-and-so, they're on their phone on Facebook the whole time. And sooner rather than later, this person's going to be like, you know what? I can hire somebody who's probably going to charge me the same thing and is going to actually like work with me on things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, that's a big, it's one of my pet peeves in the industry.
Yeah.
It's tough, man.
Yeah. I always tell people that are looking for personal trainers, and I always tell them, like, go watch the trainers you think might be a good fit for you, and go watch it, like what they're doing with other clients. And if you see them on the phone a lot, or if you notice anything that you don't like, there's your option to move to look at another coach or another trainer, but you're not paying for a session and just dealing with what they're doing, like on their phone all the time. So just kind of like bounce around and just watch every single trainer and what they do and how, they talk to their clients or how they move, or like, and even different ages too. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it's a huge thing. Like we were talking about, the client trainer relationship is so intimate. If you're with somebody that you don't really like, or that you think isn't treating you the right way, or isn't respecting you or giving you the amount of attention that you require, it's a really tough, bad thing, and it leaves people with a bad taste in their mouth. It leaves people kind of jaded about hiring a trainer in the future. So not only is it annoying when you see a trainer with that type of cadence or that type of actions, it makes it harder for everybody else too, because every client that they treat like that scare off. Mm-hmm. It makes it harder for that trainer's next coach to get them to buy in, because they know, okay, I'm coming from a guy who sat on Instagram the whole time and got me nowhere and seemed not to give a shit. So why are you different? So you're already starting kind of behind the eight ball with somebody, and it's not their fault. They came from this relationship and this, kind of not ideal situation. So of course they're going to be a little bit hesitant. Mm-hmm. That's a big, it's bad. And it sucks seeing from an entry level trainer at a corporate gym, but then you go and you'll see guys who are, elite performance coaches, and you see them working with guys, and it's like, yeah, that guy's sitting on his phone too, and he's working with a guy who's like a running back in the NFL. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. It's super annoying. Definitely is. So I know you like the powerlifting and like Olympic lifting. So what are your two favorite lifts that you like doing, like during a workout?
My favorite lifts, I would say, I love deadlifting. I think deadlifting, regardless of load, I think that deadlift is a good kind of a benchmark. If you're able to pick something up off the ground, whether it's a 600-pound barbell or a cardboard box from Amazon, and you can do it without hurting yourself, and you pick it up and you feel pretty good, chances are you're probably in a pretty good spot physically. So if you're, when my mom or dad goes and picks up something and I see him pick it up and they put it on the counter, it's like, all right, good. I feel good about the shape that my parents are in, and they're able to pick something up off the ground heavy and not get hurt. Mm-hmm. So I love the deadlift, for the carryover. I also love the deadlift because it's the one where it's like, all right, pick something up, slam it down, feels good, looks cool. So that's the deadlift is probably my favorite lift.
Yeah.
I would say I would say I really love power cleaning, because that's another one where it's like, hey, show me a guy who can power clean his body weight or more than his body weight, and you're showing me a guy who's probably able to run pretty well, who's probably able to, finish a tackle, who's probably able to jump and decelerate into a landing without getting hurt. So I like power cleaning for me, just because it's another one where it's like, hey, if I'm not able to, catch something and not have to sink my butt to the floor to get under it, I'm probably kind of where I want to be at still. Mm-hmm. And if I'm noticing like, man, 275 felt like 300 pounds today, maybe I need to be catching up on some of the accessory stuff. So those are probably my favorite two lifts. I wish that bench press and some of that stuff was higher up on my list, but I've now kind of gone the opposite of the high school kid who wants to look jacked. And I kind of don't care how I look. I mean, I would like not to look terrible, but with a bench press, it's like, I'm not gonna win a bench press competition. Like,
yeah,
why? I'm not too worried if my 1 rep max is like 335 rather than 330. Doesn't matter. I'm not gonna win anything with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So obviously, like, if you're listening, so his Instagram, he does, if it's like all deadlifts and a lot of squatting. So I wanted to kind of pick his brain a little bit on what are good ways to get stronger in those two lifts, the deadlifts and the back squat.
So I would say the number one thing, if you take any of the science out, is just the volume accumulation. The more, if you do 10 deadlifts a day, in 10 years, you're probably going to be a pretty good deadlifter. Mm-hmm. You're learning how to go through the motion. You're going to let your body kind of find the path of least resistance, and just that accumulation. And it doesn't matter if you're doing 1 set of 10 or 10 sets of 1, you're still picking something up 10 times, and you're kind of reinforcing that movement for yourself. So for a squat and a deadlift, I'd say in the long run, it's just volume accumulation. You see guys who have squatted for years and years and years, and they're probably going to be pretty good at squatting, and the same with the deadlift. I would say to anybody listening, the number one, besides accumulation, the number one tip I have for the deadlift and the back squat is to find somebody who's got a trained eye to assess how you move, because there's probably something in there that you can improve on. And if you can fix that one thing, then the accumulation is going to come into play, because you're not going to have to worry about getting hurt or moving in a faulty pattern. So my number one tip is know what the movement entails so you can do it right. Mm-hmm. So and in the weight room, it's more complicated than just, hey, you want to get better at squatting, go squat. There are a bunch of great accessory movements for both of those, and there are a bunch of great, mobility movements to fix some limitations that you might have on the squat with your ankles, with your hips. The deadlift, I guess, is a little more just kind of like get ready to go. But yeah, my number one tip would be accumulation. Like, don't rush it. If you really want to get good at deadlifting and squatting, and you're willing to kind of put the effort in, just let time kind of work in your favor, and I promise you will get stronger over time if you just do the work. But the big tip, if somebody has the means to reach out, even if it's just sending a video, which happens to me all the time, someone will send me a video like, hey, how does my squat look? And that's great, because the difference between somebody squatting 405 comfortably and 315 and feeling a little bit unstable or feeling a little bit crappy or janky under the bar might be something as small as like, hey, like your dorsiflexion is a little shitty. Here's a couple different mobility movements or a couple little things you might be able to do to help with that. And then boom, all of a sudden that person's like, wow, I feel great. And now under the bar, I'm not shifting weight, and I'm doing this and blah, blah. So I would say if you can get if you can get your movement in front of the trained eye and take one thing away from that, that may do a lot more benefit to you than even, going through and finding some crazy 20-week squat program. Mm-hmm. So just finding a trained eye and then giving yourself time, man.
Yeah. So another thing, I usually tell my clients, with Cal Dietz actually talked about this on the Barbell Shrug podcast, if you curl your big toe on the way going up, it actually fires your glutes and hamstrings, so you actually can get up on those lifts a lot quicker compared to not doing that, which I couldn't believe it, and I was like, no way, this can't be right. So I tried it and I just shot up like a rocket. It was amazing. So now every time I go down, I lift my big toe up, and then when I'm ready to go up on the lift, I'll just curl my big toe in and then just shoot right up. So
yeah, I know, and it's funny how some of those little cues work wonders. And it's, as a coach too, you find, because some cues, they all mean, some cues mean the same thing, like keeping your back flat, or pinch your shoulder blades together, balance a glass of water on your back. It all means the same thing.
Yep.
But one of those will be the one that resonates with the individual. So it's funny which little cue works for that person versus that person.
Yeah.
And Cal Dietz is awesome, man.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, hey, you don't got to understand the physiology behind triphasic training, but if you're one of those guys, you want to impress the girls and you want to make your bench press better, run through a full cycle of triphasic, and I promise you'll bench way more than you do right now.
Oh yeah.
And then you can impress the girls and see and feel like you're jacked in high school. So
yeah.
Triphasic absolutely works, and it's just another one of those protocols. Hey, if you've got the patience to not go every day and try to find a 1 rep max, it's gonna work.
Yeah. So now with the COVID-19 stuff going on, you're doing very little remote coaching, correct?
Yeah, a little bit of remote.
So how is that working with your clients, and what kind of training cycles do you have them on, or anything to help them out?
So right now, it obviously kind of throws a wrench in some of the clients' cycles, and now without a barbell, without dumbbells, without stuff, it's what I'm kind of focusing on now. I post a workout every day, just a free one. I kind of appreciate the elite FTS live, learn, pass on thing. If you give out free information to people and you don't charge them for little stuff, it may not come directly back from the person that you gave the advice to, but it'll probably come back and benefit you in the long run. So I'm big on hey, right now everybody's kind of trying to swim upstream and try to stay as in shape as they can and try to stay, not so bored. And so I figured, you know what, I'm going to post a workout every day. I want people to feel like they're cornered into buying a 12-week body weight program and blah, blah, blah. It's the same as everybody else's. So I'm posting the thing every day, and that's kind of just a strictly, hey, let's do some body weight stuff, accumulate a little bit of volume, come out of this with, you may not be quite as strong under the bar when this ends. You may not be quite as strong off the floor. You may not be quite as fast. You may not be quite as explosive. But right now, the volume that your body can handle, not under load, just with your body weight, doing couch rear foot elevated split squats or lunges or jogging or body weight squats and push-ups and stuff like that, if the mechanism's right and you're mechanically sound with those movements, you can super strengthen some of the ligaments, tendons. So I think there are going to be a lot of people that come out of this who've been kind of stringent with their body weight work that'll come back and be like, man, my knees feel great. And I racked up 1,000 rear foot elevated split squats over a couple months at home. Mm-hmm. And now I've strengthened some joints. I feel great, and I'm ready to get back under load. So for my clients, that's kind of been what it is. Hey, yeah, we're not going to be able to find a 3-rep max like we originally planned this week 6 months ago. But when we get back, we're at least going to have made sure that your conditioning stayed up. And if nothing else, you're going to end up with, strengthened tendons and ligaments, because we're doing a bunch of body weight little stuff and trying to just get better at moving. If you can move without anything, without load, and you're controlling your body weight well, it's probably something that we should go back to more often. And I guess kind of a silver lining, not a, you wouldn't wish that a pandemic and having to stay home would be what would kind of drive you back to your roots of being able to move through space and control your own body weight. But I guess it's kind of a silver lining you help people. So that's kind of with my clients right now what we're focusing on.
Nice. And so when you actually get back to them training, so what percentages do you think you're going to hit with them, like right off the bat? Like pretty much like 50% or?
I'm thinking about what I will probably do with most people is revert back to the cycle or the percentages of the cycle before this started and work from there with a really, really like large range to work in. So somebody who had some stuff at home and was really hammering out work at home and running a bunch and doing a bunch of lunges. And I got some clients who were like, hey, I'm doing 500 lunges a day. And it's like, yeah, man, you may actually come back. Like, you may not be a ton stronger, but you may come back and feel like you didn't miss anything. I've got some clients who are, nurses, and it's like, I'm literally at the hospital all day, and when I'm not, I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
And I would love to tell you that I'm going running and pulling a sled at the park, but I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to set a pretty big range probably, but most likely I'll go back to the percentages or the RPE classifications that these people were working at the month before or the cycle before, and then just kind of see how it rolls out. And if somebody at 75% of their 1 rep max feels great, and it's like, all right, man, I guess we're kind of starting back where we're starting where we left off. If somebody feels like 75% feels like an RPE 10 today, then okay, maybe we'll drop back and take a couple extra weeks to get back to it. But it'll be interesting. It'll be, I guess I'm kind of looking forward to it. It'll be an interesting little puzzle to try to figure out with getting people back up to speed. And there's no rush, people, especially kids in college and stuff, like they're not going back to work. So there's some people like, hey man, as soon as gym's open again, I got nothing to do. So I'm going to be sitting on Zoom in meetings in the mornings and I have nothing to do. So I'm all yours. So I think it'll actually be kind of fun.
Yeah. Very cool. We'll
see.
Yeah. So, you got two last questions. So, if you met a new person, a person that had a new onset of diabetes, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, I guess at any age, I would tell them which is hard, but don't let it get you down. It's something you're going to deal with for the rest of your life now. Like, it is what it is. From now until your last breath, you're going to be giving yourself insulin. It is what it is, but it does not mean at all that you can't live the same quality of life as the guy over there, or your husband, your wife, your parents, your brothers, sisters. It's something you got to deal with, but it doesn't mean that your life has to be different. So I think if they ask me one thing, that would probably be mine,
Yeah.
It's something new, but it doesn't have to infringe on your life.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. And then where can people reach you on social media?
So my Instagram handle is @coach.clancy. I have a Facebook that I admittedly don't update as much as I should. That's ccfitaz on Facebook. You can also find me on ccfitaz.com. I'm doing a little bit of work on the website, so there's a couple little video links that are down right now. But Instagram right now is kind of my bread and butter. I have a TikTok, and I don't love that. So you can find me on there if you want to see stupid videos. But it's Instagram's kind of my bread and butter. I'm usually pretty good about responding to stuff. Anybody out there who's watching, I do get a lot of random videos of a squat or a deadlift or a clean or whatever. Like, I may not get back to you in 5 minutes, but I welcome, advice, questions, anything. I love connecting with people. And so that's where you can find me on social media. I love connecting with people. Obviously, we've got a relationship now, and I dig that. So
yeah, awesome.
Anybody wants.
So we got cut off in the last part of the episode. The last part was mainly just thanking Connor for being on my podcast. I really do appreciate it, and it's been a long time coming that we've actually talked to each other instead of using Instagram for comments or anything like that. So once again, Connor, thank you very much for being on my podcast. It truly does mean a lot, and I'm looking forward to another one with you.